Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice to radio, so today we're looking at a new Slaking card. And what's really weird is, it might be good. I'm used to really bad Slaking cards, like the one from Dragons Exalted, which cannot attack basic Pokemon, and does 100 for 4 energy. But like I said, ladies and gentlemen, this one might be good and has become quite a bit of a tradition. Our translation here does come from the lovely David Hochmann, Mr. RappelmannTCG himself. So looking at the basics here, it is a colourless Pokemon. That means you're not hitting anything for weakness, and there's no extra tricks like fighting and water Pokemon get Brooklet Hill. No. Colourless Pokemon get nothing. They do get double colourless energy, which is quite nice, but there's plenty of non-colourless Pokemon, Tapu Koko, that also get to use double colourless energy, so you can't even feel special about that. Now, 160 HP is pretty good, but to be perfectly honest, this is about standard for Stage 2 nowadays. I mean, see my boy Empoleon. What is not good is the weakness. Weakness to fighting is a very bad thing indeed. Buzzwole, Lycanroc, and of course you're then sharing a weakness with Zoroark, which is the best Pokemon in the format, which means a whole bunch of people are trying to counter it, which means they're playing fighting Pokemon. You see where I'm going with this. Retreat cost of 3 is very high. Good news is you get Heavy Ball. Bad news is we expect this card in August in Celestial Storm. And we expect Heavy Ball to rotate shortly afterwards in September, which is not ideal, ladies and gentlemen. It's not ideal, unfortunately. And of course, it is a Stage 2, so you've got to muck around with stuff like rare candy. But Stage 2s will see play if they're good enough. Vikavolt has shown us that much. And I tell you what, it just might be. The ability says that as long as this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, your opponent's Pokemon have no abilities except for Lazy. It is exactly the same as Glaceon's ability, with the exception that Glaceon's ability turns off abilities of your opponent's EXs and GXs, whereas Slaking turns off the abilities of all of your opponent's Pokemon. And we need this, ladies and gentlemen, because I've just mentioned the rotation happening in September. Not confirmed, but I did my video like 3 months ago. Go check it out. I'm pretty sure about it. And we should be losing Garbodor, which means that the only ways we have to turn off abilities are going to be Alolan Muck, but only for basics, and Glaceon, but only for EXs and GXs. Evolved Pokemon that are not GXs just won't lose their ability. Their ability will always be on. That's not a great situation to be in. We need a counter for these Pokemon that might have really good abilities. Well, great news. In comes Slaking, and this is by no means an exhaustive list, but I have made a nice little list of Pokemon whose abilities will be turned off by Slaking. So we'll start off with these Pokemon that are essentially only turned off by Slaking. How about Vikavolt? Vikavolt is a great card that is seeing a huge amount of play with Tapu Bulu, and it started, I did a video just earlier today, make sure you check it out, the top 10 decks for the Latin American International Championship. I really looked at results, and you know what? Results are in, Tapu Bulu, Vikavolt keeps top decking. But when Garbodor rotates, there is no way to turn off Vikavolt. Well, Slaking will come in, turn off Vikavolt. Vikavolt attaches a grass and a lightning energy from your deck to your Pokemon every turn. That speeds up so you can use Tapu Bulu. Yeah, not when there's a Slaking in the active. How about Malamar? Kind of similar situation. It's going to see play with Ultra Necrozma. It accelerates 1 Psychic Energy a turn from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon. And it's looking very good indeed. So if you've got a Slaking in the active, your opponent cannot get that extra energy. They are limited to that 1 energy attachment per turn. And while we're, dissing evolved Pokemon that accelerate energy, how about Magnezone? Which has already seen a little smattering of success with Duskmane Necrozma. Similar kind of deal. Duskmane Necrozma is a heavy hitter but uses a lot of energy. Magnezone gets that energy. So you use Slaking, put it in the active, turn off Magnezone, and Duskmane Necrozma can get going in 4 turns, but then that's it. and they get no more. Now, one that's going to rotate quite soon, but I think is worth mentioning a little bit anyway. How about Greninja? Greninja's got that giant water shuriken ability whereby you discard a water energy from your hand, do 6 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Well, this will turn that off, so then you're just basically sitting there against a Greninja, and they're doing 80 damage. And the best part is, if they use Shadow Stitch, it will turn off your ability, but they'll have already attacked, so they won't be able to use their abilities. In your face, Greninja. Now, it will stop GXs as well. Things like Zoroark and Trade, things like Lycanroc and Bloodthirsty Eyes, things like Tapu Lele and Wonder Tag will still be turned off by this, although they could also be turned off by Glaceon. And of course, basic Pokemon like Oranguru, and let's face it, Octillery should be rotating as well. That's another one that will be turned off by this. When Octillery rotates, Oranguru is going to become even more ubiquitous. A basic Pokemon that can draw you extra cards sometimes. It's going to see play. And then, of course, Eevee with that energy evolution. Your opponent's probably going to evolve before you get Slaking out. But either way, it's still something you could turn off here. And we should mention that just like with Glaceon, if your opponent gets their own Slaking out, they still get the ability, it's called Lazy, so they can still turn off your abilities other than your own Lazy. So if everyone's got a Slaking, no one has abilities. And I should also mention it's only while Slaking is in the active. I mean, Trevenant was something that worked a lot like this, and in fact, more recently, Wobbuffet. Your opponent could just play something like a Guzma or an Escape Rope, which wouldn't have worked with Trevenant being an item card, and then your opponent gets their abilities back. And you know what? I'm also a big fan of the attack here. It's pretty nice. Now, it is free colourless energy, which is slightly more than I'd like, but we'll get to that. 160 damage. Discard an energy attached to this Pokemon. This Pokemon cannot attack during your next turn. Well, 160 damage is awesome. Whack a Choice Band on that bad boy, and you're getting a one-hit KO on a whole bunch of relevant Pokemon. Tapu Lele, Buzzwole, Duskmane Necrozma, Ultra Necrozma. These basic GXs that have started creeping up into the 190 range will be KO'd here. And 160 is enough to one-hit KO pretty much any non-GX, although there will be the odd big bad boy like my big bad boy Mamoswine, who's got 180 HP and will be able to take that hit. Free energy is more than we'd like here. Now, you can use double colourless energy, and that's very nice. But you'll still need to get that third energy. The hope is that you get the first one out, and even though it's then going to be slower getting the subsequent Slaking out, you are turning off abilities. So hopefully you'll still be able to manage, because your opponent will be playing slower because they won't have the abilities, giving you time to get an energy and a double colourless on there. And you have got to discard an energy, but it's not the end of the world because, you know, just put one on the following turn, although that does hurt your ability to power up multiple Slaking. As for the you can't attack next turn, it's really not a big deal. Pokemon like Ho-Oh have shown us that. Just use stuff like Guzma. The thing is, against some decks, this could absolutely crush. So take Vikavolt Tapu Bulu. Well, you turn off Vikavolt, and with a Choice Band, you get a one-hit KO on Tapu Bulu, and they're not accelerating energy. That should be a decent matchup. Same thing with Magnezone, Duskmane, Necrozma. They can't accelerate their energy, and you're getting a one-hit KO with a Choice Band. Greninja, they're doing naffle damage because they don't have Giant Water Shuriken, although you don't get a one-hit KO on Greninja Break as it's got 170 HP, which kind of sucks, but you'll still be getting one-hit KOs on the others, and let's face it, you can do the extra 10 HP somewhere. And how about Malamar Ultra Necrozma? Again, you turn off Malamar while one-hit KOing Ultra Necrozma. Although, to be fair, if they get 2 Psychic Energy and discard them both, they will then get a one-hit KO. I'm not saying this is going to beat every deck, but I am saying that there are a whole bunch of decks where if you're turning off abilities while getting a one-hit KO on GXs, that's going to end quite well for you. Now, because it is from Champion Road, it is a reprint, and I should mention, it is a reprint of the EX Ruby and Sapphire Slaking, but it's actually a fair bit better, because the Slaking from EX Ruby and Sapphire only turned off Poker Powers. Back then, active abilities, think Magnezone, would be Poker Powers that you would use, and passive abilities, think Glaceon, would be Poker Bodies, because they're always there. Well, now they're both under the heading of abilities, so Slaking turning off abilities actually makes it quite a bit better than the old Slaking, which is kind of cool. Overall, I'm going to be giving Slaking between 3 and 4 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies. That would be barbaric. It's a stage 2 and it's a little bit more expensive attacking wise than I would like, but you've got an attack that can hit the numbers and an ability which can completely slow down some decks, and it's colourless so can fit with absolutely any other Pokemon you want to play it with. That sounds alright to me, but if it doesn't sound alright to you, great news, there's a comment section. Go nuts, be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, etc., then head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do just that. And do check out Wassie Plays, my other channel, for some more Wassie action. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.